Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the British Eventing Show on the Ratings Eventing podcast. And on today's show, we are going to be looking forward to 2024 with a couple of very special guests. Now, I'm going to start by welcoming a young lady who had a season, it is fair to say, of two halves in 2023. She is the reigning under-25 national champion from Bramham, but she also is coming back from fairly serious injury from a fall at the back end of the season as well. It is lovely to have you back on the show, Bubby Upton. How are you?
Hi, Nicole. I'm good, thank you. Been a slightly different answer if you had asked me that a few months ago, but I'm good, and feeling motivated, feeling stronger, and life is good, to be honest. Can't particularly complain, to be honest.
Good. That is what we like to hear. I have to admit, listeners, we will put the disclaimer out there that Bubby is in the car driving because this was the time that we could set up to record. So if signal drops or anything like that, look, we've got your back. We're always trying to bring you the content that you're looking for. But Bubby, rewind a little bit, because for anybody who isn't aware or who has been, I'm going to say, living under a rock for the last few months, that feels a little bit harsh. Just take us back, because you had a pretty nasty fall kind of back end of the season in sort of August time. How has your rehab been going?
Yeah, so like you say, I sadly had a bad fall in August on the 18th of August. So I had to undergo 7 hours of emergency spinal surgery. I've come a hell of a long way in the last few months, but it has been a roller coaster, that is for sure. But the season was going amazingly. I had big goals, and the horses were all set. In particular, Cola and Magic Roundabout for Burley, and then I guess like it is with sport, we have highs and lows, and I was slapped with a very big low anyway with my accident, and then obviously plans out the window, and a whole different challenge lay ahead of me that was definitely not in the plan ever, but we've navigated it, and it's definitely a chapter of my life that will stay with me forever, and one that I am very, very proud of, to be honest.
You have been fairly candid. You did a great video for the British Eventing Support Trust that went out on social media that we'll talk about best in a moment, and their impact. But you've been quite candid in terms of the work that you've put into your recovery. What has rehab looked like? Because rehab is intense and hard. Is that fair to say?
It has been incredibly tough, incredibly painful and just difficult, to be honest. But I am definitely not in a position, I don't ever feel, to complain. I mean, yes, I'm more than happy to talk about it and talk about the intricate details of it. But I am very aware that there are many people that would love to be in my position and haven't been quite so lucky as me in terms of the recovery that I have been able to make. So I'm very aware of that and sensitive to that. And I guess that my second chance that I have had, and I know I said on social media, but it will forever be the greatest fuel to my fire. And I'm just very aware of that when I speak about my recovery and my rehab and my situation. But in terms of the rehab, so surgery, it was on the 19th of August surgery, and I was basically left with significant neurological damage to my right leg. Before the surgery, the leg was paralysed. It didn't have any sensation or movement in it, and then obviously going into surgery, there was huge levels of risk, and the surgery was unbelievably complex due to the severity of the damage and inflammation and swelling that there was around and on the spinal cord itself. So when I say that I've been unbelievably lucky, that's why, because my scan images show that a different scenario could or should have very easily occurred. But in terms of my rehabilitation, so I was post-surgery left with this neurological damage to the right side. So it was just straight away about trying to, first they were trying to gain an understanding of what sensations and what movements and strength that I had, and it was obvious pretty quickly that there was this huge discrepancy. So rehab began 2.5 weeks after I left hospital. I was in hospital for just under a week, and I went straight to the Injured Jockeys Fund in Newmarket under the British Eventing Support Trust banner. So obviously, it goes without saying, I'm so unbelievably grateful to both those charities, because it meant that I could just focus on getting better and getting stronger. I didn't have to, worry about the logistics or the, anything like that. I was totally under control with the B Support Trust and the Injured Jockeys Fund. But we began in the hydro pool, which was just trying to begin to walk again, and just actually, to be fair, walking didn't come till a week or so later, when I was already in the pool. Just began by trying to get some movement in the right leg. It's amazing when you're in the water, the sensation of the water on your leg, it kind of makes it function a lot better than what it does out of water. It's peculiar, and I obviously don't know the science as to why, but all I know is I could, move it a bit more in water, and it was a lot less sensitive neurologically than it was out of water. So we began by just trying to do very basic movements again, like lift the leg a little bit, swing it a little bit, and just use the resistance of the water as kind of a natural kind of, resistance. So that kind of began, and then slowly we then started to walk again. And walking on the water treadmill led to a huge improvement in my day-to-day walking. It kind of, reprogrammed the body that it could walk, and massively improved my technique of walking, because I had this right swing with my right leg, because I didn't have the strength to push the leg forward in a straight line. So I had this dish with my right leg. If I was a horse, you would not have bought me anyway. And things just basically gradually started to increase in intensity and difficulty as I found the basic stuff a little bit easier step by step. But and then I eventually progressed into the gym, which, to be honest, was one of the lowest. I didn't have many days where I did go into a kind of low mindset or feel down, because, like I said, I was forever kind of feeling unbelievably lucky to have had that second chance, and the words of my surgeon constantly rang in my ears, and they will forevermore. So that awareness of what should have been provided me with so much motivation and throughout my rehab. But going into the gym for the first time, I trained in the IJF before my accident, and my old workouts were on the board still. My old personal trainer was there, and I just walked in, and I couldn't sit down on the floor without two people helping me. I couldn't stand up without two people helping me. I could barely, walk. So normality and what I was used to felt so far away, and it almost felt, I'm not going to say, impossible, because, I don't believe that, it was impossible, but it felt so difficult and such a far away of achieving, that, I did feel very, very low in that moment. And then a couple of days following my first time in the gym, we did very, very basic stuff in the gym, but my body went into complete kind of spasm and into complete shock from the tiny load that we tried. Then I went completely back kind of to square one, and then couldn't walk again for 3-4 days because of the spasms. So that was kind of probably the lowest in the recovery. But apart from that, we've just been pushing really hard and trying to make the new normal as good as it can be.
Talk to me about getting back on board, back on a horse after a few months, kind of having gone through the rehab, and what that moment was like.
The day before was, interestingly, actually the even more emotional bit, being told by my surgeon that I could ride again. I really didn't think that he would ever say that. Everyone was preparing me for him to say, in X amount of weeks or months you'll be able to ride again. But we never thought he'd say that I could ride again when I saw him, because I just wasn't that strong still. So I had definitely kind of managed expectations in my head, and was that meeting, seeing my surgeon, it was 3 months post-op, and that gave me that was a goal and a target, to get as strong as we could, to see my surgeon, to then try and be told that I could ride as soon as possible. So then having that meeting, I was then ready for him to give me kind of another target that then could keep me motivated for another, 2 weeks or months. So when he then said, you can ride again, I remember saying to him, really? Are you joking? And he's like, no, you can ride again. My mum was there, and part of the GB World Class, Ash Wallace was there as well, and I just burst into tears. I just couldn't believe it, to be honest. So that was an unbelievably emotional afternoon and evening, and I was like a little school kid. I didn't sleep all night. I was so excited to be back on the next morning. And then when it actually came to getting back on the next morning, I was so focused, and I had to really, really concentrate, because obviously I was quite weak still, and I needed to provide a lot of feedback to the team around me, to how it felt, what it felt like. So then we knew kind of where to then work on, and then what to target next. So the actual riding itself, I was really concentrating on it, and it just felt, to be honest with you, completely alien. It was so bizarre being back on. My back was unbelievably rigid, because basically half my spine is now metalwork. So it was a really weird feeling, and not the feeling that I obviously was used to, but it was just so special to be sat behind the ears again, and back doing what I love. And yes, it felt alien, like I said, but it felt like such a huge step in the right direction, and an unbelievable reward for what myself and the team around me had been pushing so hard towards. So it was amazing. But the day before being told was 100% the most emotional bit of it all, because I guess that was the realization that I was able to ride again, which was just more special than words can describe.
Be able to get to that point is huge. Now, obviously, the build up to this season is in full swing. For you, I imagine it looks a little bit different compared to this time last year. So what is the plan at Team Upton with the kind of the start of the season on the horizon? Have you got sort of a plan in place, or is it very much play it by ear?
So it's a bit different to normal. A lot of my week is now taken up by rehab and physio. So I have a smaller string of horses that I'm concentrating on for the start of the season, with then obviously the hope to then expand when I'm back into the swing of things. But I've just entered the first event of the season, which I never thought would come out of my mouth, to be honest. I've entered Poplar Park with just 3 horses to start with, just to see how it goes. But within my team, we know roughly in our heads, well, I obviously 100% know what the aim is, what I'm working towards, but in the same breath, we're keeping that between ourselves, because just being able to even, like I say, enter the first event of the season and prepare for the season, really does feel like a dream come true. If you had told me that 4 months ago, that would have never ever been in the question. So the kind of how far we've come it's been truly extraordinary. So I just feel so lucky that I'm even able to say about competing this season, let alone making exciting plans. So for me, we're just taking each step as it comes, each day as it comes, and if what we have in our head we can pull off and we can make happen, then that will really be a fairy tale. But just being able to be back doing what I love and preparing for the season feels like a huge win, and it's enough for me, to be honest.
Well, it's certainly a very, very exciting time for the whole team. There is no doubting the tenacity, the hard work, the sheer determination and mental strength that's gone into it. I have to ask, so for anybody listening to this show who might be sort of kind of fleshing out their season. What would your advice be at this stage of the year in terms of actually how you go about planning your 2024?
So I think for me anyway, the most important thing is to have a goal and to have a kind of spring main event that you're kind of aiming towards. So normally, for us, that's in the form of a long format, and then to then kind of work back from that. So once you've pinpointed the event that you'd like to target in the spring, I then obviously each horse is slightly different in the sense that some need to run more, some don't need to run so much, and then with that in mind, I then work backwards and I kind of know how close I want my final run to be before that kind of main target, and then we'll keep working backwards as to how many runs that you want to ensure that you have got all the preparation pillars and steps in place. And it's better to kind of, I would say, make like a buffer to have like too many events as such, as opposed to not allowing yourself enough runs and then feeling like you need an extra one but you're running out of time. So that's kind of how I do it. And like I say, having that kind of one buffer event in case you need it.
And for anybody who is, say, grassroots level this time of year, competing up to say the novice level, anything like that, fitness wise, where would you be in terms of your horse's fitness? You're sort of planning to come out, start the season in March. What kind of level of work would you be doing with a horse at that level at this stage?
To be honest with you, I'm potentially a little bit different from other riders. I don't do so much just like galloping. I do a lot of it kind of on like long hacks as such and long canters, which I know is a method that Piggy uses as well quite a lot. And for a horse at novice, the hacking itself, in my opinion, if you put in the hours and you're riding them for a long enough period of time, that gets them fit enough for novice. I wouldn't actually start galloping my horses until they're doing a 3 long.
Okay.
But like I say, my method is a bit different to others. But I do keep my galloping to a minimum. Particularly, like I say, they wouldn't until they do 3-star long. But obviously, there are exceptions to the rule. You might have a horse that really struggles in terms of stamina and doesn't have that level of thoroughbred, so they might need to have a few blowouts up the gallop before the season, and then the runs themselves tend to keep them fit enough unless you have a big gap.
Very solid advice. And actually, I think for lots of people listening to this who don't necessarily have access to all of the facilities, gallops, things like that, actually, it's really reassuring to know that they can do plenty by their usual sort of hacking routine and just mixing things up a little bit that way. Last question for you, Bubby, because I just wonder, you were talking a little bit about your rehab and kind of the use of water and hydrotherapy and everything a little bit earlier on. Has your rehab and your sort of experience over the last few months altered the way you manage your horses at all?
No, it hasn't, to be honest, because I have always been that of if a horse does have an injury, I always give them extra time. But it has been quite interesting in the sense of when you bring horses back into work, or relating it to me coming back into work as such myself, when you first do everything, it feels, when you've had a long time off doing it and then you do it again for the first time, it does feel really weird and you do really struggle with it, and then you do get stiff. So it has given me a lot more of an understanding of if a horse is coming back from a holiday or coming back from an injury, just to give them that extra bit of time for their bodies and muscles to adapt to the work again, because your body definitely loses so much condition and muscle, and therefore with it, when you do, obviously as me, an exercise, or therefore a horse does an exercise again for the first time, the body does need time to adapt and to get used to those movements again, for sure. But I wouldn't say it's given me more maybe of an understanding kind of oneself physically, but it hasn't made me kind of adapt what I do with the horses and such, because I would like to think that I always gave them like extra bit of time anyway than what was recommended.
That appreciation of, I guess, how it feels is very valuable, and not actually something everybody can say.
Yeah,
Look, Bubby,
exactly.
it has been a hell of a journey over the last few months, and I know that the eventing community has been right behind you and kind of wishing you well with your recovery, and I'm really, really keeping fingers crossed that that return to competition at the beginning of March all goes to plan. Keep up the brilliant work, and I would just do a massive shout out. You mentioned them a little bit earlier on, British Eventing Support Trust. They are there for any competing British eventing member. So whether you've had a big injury, it doesn't have to be at a British eventing competition, or whether you've had a smaller injury and just need a little bit of help or guidance with physio, or you need a little bit of mental health support as well. They've got a brilliant new mental health support line that has 24/7 access. Look them up, support them when you can, because they're there for you if you need them. So by all means, have a chat with the team, and if you can support them this season, if you're out and about, and they do charity course walks, they've got a great quiz evening coming up at the end of February. I think 29th of February. It's a Thursday evening. It's online. Anybody can get involved. Then make sure you show them your support as well, because they do a brilliant job raising money for very, very vital funds. So look, big shout out to the British Eventing Support Trust. Bobby, good luck over the next few months, and fingers crossed some of those goals will start to come to fruition and all of the hard work. But yeah, keep going.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much.
Now, our next guest on the show, listeners, is a young man who had a rather exceptional start to his British eventing career. He was the winner of the Newcomers League in 2023. 100% opposition beaten percentage, listeners. He beat everybody he came up against last year. That is some going. Ollie Rowlands, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It is our absolute pleasure. I'm pretty certain that you might actually be, apart from the odd unscripted cameo from one of our children, our youngest ever guest. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Just tell us a little bit about yourself to get things started.
I'm 13, based in Cheshire, and I've loved my BE eventing so far and can't wait to carry on.
That's amazing. So you're based over in Cheshire. When did you start your British eventing journey?
Started at British eventing. It was in 2022 when I won Warwick Hall.
Amazing. So you started off with a winning debut, came out last season, and I mean, you'd already had a taste of success. You had 3 events last year. You won all 3 of them. Did you feel confident going into the first of those, or have you actually surprised yourself slightly with actually how well it has gone looking back?
Went quite well. A little bit surprised to start with, but then the success kept coming and kept getting happier, and yeah, really fun.
Tell us a bit about Nimbus Blaze, Louis, as he's known at home. What's he like?
He's really kind and gentle. Call him the BFG. He's really nice.
How big is he? Is he very big?
14'2".
Okay. And what's his experience? How long have you guys been together?
So my mum got him as an unbroken 3-year-old, and he's been in the family longer than me.
Amazing.
And during lockdown, I asked my mum if I could keep him fit, and she said yeah, and then she never got him back.
Does she regret that decision now?
I think so, a little bit.
Amazing. So he is coming up 20 this time, isn't he? So I mean,
Yeah.
You're 13. So I mean, he really has been in the family longer than you have.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And so in terms of his strengths, obviously he's pretty brilliant in all 3 phases, as your results would show. But does he and do you have a favourite?
Probably cross country. He gets really excited and jogs all the way from the lorry down to the start box.
Is he strong or is he quite good?
Quite good, usually. Can get very excited.
Usually. You said that with he's definitely keen. When you first started BE, obviously kind of young person coming into the sport, what was your take on it? What were your first impressions looking back?
Quite fun, because Warwick Hall was like really fun, because I started and then as we were walking around got to see quite a few famous people up there, and I just love speaking to like all the top riders and getting what they thought, and then going around myself was brilliant.
So you were brave enough to go and ask people actually, what they made of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We all need to be more Ollie, because actually we should all have the guts and the determination to kind of go up and speak to people, because everybody is so friendly and open. What was the best piece of advice you were given?
Probably to ride positively and not override and get into a nice forward rhythm and keep it.
That sounds very like good advice to me. Absolutely. So coming into last season, you actually won £400 for topping the Newcomers and the B80 League back in May and June. So start of the season, things were going really well. There's a huge £10,000 prize pot, which is split out across the leagues. And it's a real opportunity, I guess, to get some pretty decent money in the sports and kind of be able to do things that you wouldn't necessarily normally do. So what did you do with that £400?
That £400, I bought a new saddle for my novice that was qualified for the Ace Championship finals.
Okay, nice. That's a good investment. That's a good investment for the future. What about later on in the season? So obviously your season was going unbelievably well, and you were picking up wins after wins. Talk us through kind of how the year played out for you.
Started off really well and then had a couple of dressage lessons with my instructor, Jan Lee, and we kept working on the dressage and going to the events. And after Stafford, we had another lesson with my fabulous dressage teacher and headed to Little Gatcombe. And then after that, I was selected for the Wales in youth team. But unfortunately, in the run-up to that, Louis picked up a small injury.
Was that one of those moments? Because obviously everything had been going quite smoothly, but as we all know with horses, that actually things are rarely smooth. So was that one of those moments that was actually a bit of a kind of, not a reality check, but a moment where you kind of went, actually, do you know what? Horses are horses. You know, we've got to enjoy this. We can't take it for granted.
Yeah, definitely, because having a fabulous season, we just didn't know when the fabulous was going to come to an end. And unfortunately, it came as like his biggest event was coming up.
He didn't get to run there. Did he have a bit of a break then till the end of the season?
Had a little bit of a break, and then we brought him back into work again, and now he's coming back off his Christmas holidays and ready for this year.
And what is the plan for this year? Because I feel like, Ollie, you have set the bar pretty high for yourself. You're unbeaten.
I think we're probably going to go to Bramham, hopefully do quite well there, and then hopefully try and keep up this 100% record through BE and try and step up to the 90s after Bramham.
So is that the plan, to go to Bramham for the B80 Championships?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the championships? Because it's an Ian Stark track. It's the last year that Ian Stark's actually going to be designing as well, which is pretty cool. Are you actually really looking forward to it? Or are you a little bit kind of nervous about actually Bramham's a big deal?
Really looking forward to it, because I've seen a couple of videos of the leap of faith, and it's going to be like really incredible, like galloping past the house.
It is one of those moments that you absolutely want to enjoy. Longer term, what's the goal? Nimbus Blaze, Louis is 20 this time, as we've said. So he's possibly heading towards the latter stages of his career. But actually, if we were to chat in the next few years, what would you really hope to be doing?
So we're on the lookout for a new pony this year and hopefully qualify for the badminton grassroots at 90 and 100s and then progress to pony trials.
Nice. And so what's for you the goal? Have you thought about whether this is something that you want to do in life, or have you got other ambitions?
Big dream for like 10 years is probably to try and get on the British pony team one day.
Nice. Do you know what, Ollie? Best of luck. It is going to be a really exciting season. I all think we need to channel our inner Ollie and be more you. Ask for the advice, have the confidence, and do you know what? Enjoy it. Absolutely enjoy it. If you could sum up your British eventing journey so far in 3 words, and I'm totally putting you on the spot now, but if you could sum it up in 3 words, what would they be?
Incredible, satisfying, and amazing.
I love that. Incredible, satisfying and amazing. If that isn't a bigger advert for British Eventing, I don't know what is. Ollie, 13 years old, absolutely knocking it out the park, unbeaten last year. Looking forward to 2024. I'm sure anybody else that sees you on the entry list will be thinking, oh, shucks. But give Louis lots of carrots from us, and wishing you all the very best for the year ahead.
Thank you very much.
There you go, listeners. That sums up this month's episode of the British Eventing Show on the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast. Massive thank you to Bobby and to Ollie for their time. Looking forward to following their progress in the year ahead. Now, don't forget, entries for the first few events are open. The British Eventing Support Trust, we mentioned that charity quiz evening that they're having on the 29th of February. You can get more details for that on their website, on the Facebook page and Instagram page as well. So do take a look and see if it might be something that you can support. They do some incredible work, as we've touched upon on this show. But for now, that is all we've got time for, and we'll be back very soon with more. Thanks for listening.